Hello? Yeah, I got out of the movies. I'm gonna be murdered to death. Oh my god. It's kind of redundant, but... Well, will you at least let me post my movie review first? My movie review. I do reviews on YouTube. Oh, Good Winter Productions. You should totally subscribe. Okay, murder me and then subscribe. Okay. Alright, thanks, Mom. I didn't even have a phone for the video. I was using a little my Easy Pass because I can't really record a phone with me on the phone. You see the predicament. The film stars Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, and Ethan Hawke as a kid in the 1970s is abducted by a masked man known as the Grabber. He then begins to receive psychic phone calls from the past victims as they try to help him escape, while at the same time his sister begins to get premonitions in her dreams as she tries to help lead the police to save her brother before it's too late. And like I said before, a lot of the horror films I'm seeing are really beginning to dip in quality. The trailer for this is what really sold me. The premise is something very interesting, and the director, Scott Derrickson, has a long history with horror. In fact, he also did Doctor Strange 1, which kind of explains a lot of the more horror aspects of that movie. But it looked like an interesting premise. I like Ethan Hawke, and I like a lot of the performances he's given. And suffice to say, for the most part, I was pleasantly surprised. If you're worried about any commercial or trailer spoiling any kind of plot points, for the most part, it didn't happen. I saw a preview and I was really disappointed because I'm like, did you just spoil the whole movie? I hate it when commercials do that. But thankfully, it didn't spoil anything, and there was a lot of surprises to be had. One of the biggest surprises is the whole first act, they really dedicate time to set up the main kid, Finn. And let me just say, I know I have a long history and reputation on this channel for hating kid actors. These kids were fantastic. They really felt like they were in the 1970s. They cursed, they make cultural references to shows they're watching, and not once did I feel like I was watching like Bad Clone Girl from Jurassic World Dominion. Talk about horror shows. I still get nightmares about that. But in any event, these kids were great. This little girl, Boop, who plays the sister who gets the premonitions, she's going places. She was fantastic in this movie. And like I said, they really bought into the 1970s environment that the film takes place in. If you notice, once I say this, you won't be able to unsee it. Every horror movie you're going to see from now on is going to take place in the past. You know why? Because of cell phones. Any event and any horror thing can be fixed by just sending out a text. And every cell phone's being tracked now. Thanks, FBI. Boop, FBI. But no, it takes place in the past, and it takes full advantage of the 1970s. What I also liked is how the film built tension. There was a lot of sequences where I was on the edge of my seat, and a lot of people in the early screening, you can tell that they were kind of, their knuckles were palming. Wow, I should edit that out, but I'm not. Their palms were sweating, and as the sequences went on, like, there was really good, like, climaxes to each individual scene. Ethan Hawke, let me just say, this guy is terrifying. He was the bad guy in Moon Knight. I think he found his niche in playing creepy psychopaths, because every time he walked into the scene, he had, like, a new mask, and there was this underlying theme of, like, him having, like, multiple personalities. It kind of worked. It really built the creep factor with his character. And suffice to say, there are some things that happened in the third act of the movie I was not expecting at all. The first two acts were really well done. The way they built tension, the way they set up little kind of seeds that turned out to be good uses of foreshadowing later on down the line. If I do have a little bit of a complaint, though, one of my biggest pet peeves, well, besides wet socks, and mozzarella sticks, which are the worst appetizer, are jump scares. I absolutely hate jump scares, and the first two acts really did a good job of not having too many jump scares. Towards the last, 40 minutes, I would say, there was a little bit too many, some just for the sake of having a cheap scare, and I was really disappointed. I'm like, come on, movie, you were really doing a good job at not having any of these, but suffice to say, it didn't take me out of the movie too much. There's also this other character, again, no spoilers, a character who's set up in a really out-of-place comedy scene, and you think that it's a random, dumb, funny moment, but it actually is important to the plot, but in a way that feels cheap, and it leads to a death that is very over-the-top, very CGI-heavy. People in my audience laughed when it happened, and it really took me out. Again, it didn't ruin the movie, but there were some of those moments where you're like, all right, now I'm watching a cheap horror movie. Okay. But that doesn't stop this thing from really being an exciting thrill ride. And this is coming from someone who doesn't love horror movies, but I gotta say, there was a lot of twists and turns. The kid actors, I want to see more kid actors like this. They were phenomenal. And there are a few crowd-pleasing moments, too. Again, I mentioned foreshadowing, good use of foreshadowing. And I gotta say the direction. Scott Derrickson is a fantastic director. He takes what could have been just another run-of-the-mill horror film and he added a whole layer of personality. I gotta say, there was a lot more interesting story beats than I was expecting, and the direction was top-notch. So if I'm gonna give a rating, I'm gonna say Black Phone gets a B. Solid recommendation. If you're gonna take your girlfriend or significant other out, best friend, go see Black Phone. Avoid Jurassic Park Dominion like the plague. And as always, go with Jeff, and you're guaranteed a good win.